Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum and the Throne of Thorns campaign. We are on the Witch Hammer, which is the second volume of that long-running campaign. But you know that. That's why you're here. Probably, maybe. Hi. And if you're new, don't worry. It will all be really, you'll be confused. But it's fine. It's fine. Just settle in. It'll be all right. Okay, before I start bringing on the players and start doing the recap, let's do the usual promo. If you check down below this stream, you will find a number of links to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching on one of those. Please check out the other. Twitch is where we stream live, and YouTube is where those streams go when they die. There's a lot of various archives of long-running campaigns, short-running campaigns, one-shots, lots of systems, lots of players, lots of wonderful people. So, check those out. Down below, you'll also find the links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. If you're interested in any of those things, please give them a go. Currently, we're running 2 weekly campaigns. There is this, Symbaroum on Wednesdays, and there is Vason on Monday with Johnny and the Monday crew. Check those out as well. If you like your horror, folky, and Victorian-y, there's no better place to be on a Monday night, probably, maybe. Okay. Let's start. Oh, and I should mention we do monthly one-shots as well. Sometimes more than one a month. The next one is on the 1st of April, or should be on the 1st of April, and is Dungeon World with Pierre and co. So there we go. Okay, let's bring on our first player who can do our kind of meta recap of the whole story so far, or at least the story of Witchhammer so far. And it's going to be John. Hi, John.
Hi, Matt.
John is slightly less ill now, so can be on camera and do things like recaps. John also plays Sir Arendar, last remaining scion of House Dar, duelist, wannabe noble, cat owner. John, how's life over the last few months been for Sir Arendar?
It's been certainly exciting. We ended up in Carvosti after a fairly normal job for the Order Magica, where we were asked to, by the very nice local drunk ogre, to rescue his friend who may have been in some kind of trouble. Unfortunately, he asked this by announcing to a room full of treasure hunters that said friend may have found the way to the lost city of Symbar, and the other people in the room weren't as concerned about the person in question. So there's been a wee bit of a gold rush, and we've been trying to track down Ilmendra and beat all of the people trying to get to Symbar. And we started by visiting the small village called New Earthmore, where there had been a girl that Ilmendra had talked to about something about the caverns underneath Carvosti. And now we're taking a bit of a detour to Fria, which is a ruin that Ilmendra previously visited, woke up something very nasty, and found something important. We don't know what.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you completely not know what? I'm not sure. I can't remember what you know and what you don't know.
I can't remember myself.
I think there was. We'll ask when everyone's on, because I don't want to drop information without you having earned it. But regardless, that was a pretty good summary of where we are with the Witch Hammer. Let's bring on the other players, and then I'll talk a little bit about what happened last session to bring us completely up to date. So first off, let's bring on Mike. Mike plays Father Anton, Theurg of Prios, holy man, roller of terrible dice, and occasionally hitter of things with a big old flail. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Matthew.
Hello. And how are you, and how is Father Anton?
I am okay. Father Anton is having another crisis of faith.
No.
Another week, another crisis of faith. Because there is a schism in the church, and it's creating all sorts of problems for him, and for Elendra as well, a little bit, perhaps. So.
Absolutely. And let's bring on the next player, and it's a player who's put something very handy in our chat, which he can read out for our viewers. It's Stephen. Stephen plays Elendra, former Templar novice turned hitter of things with swords for cash. Yeah.
So I guess there are occasions on the stream when I just kind of stare distractedly off. It's usually because I'm taking notes about things that happen. So I just went back to my notes, and they say that they, being a guy called Brother Bartho and Almendra, went to Fria Ligan to study the locking mechanism of an ancient gate, which is, I guess, what they were looking for, but ran into some rage trolls. Bartho was injured and had to stay at the camp. Almendra went to the ruins on her own and returned after 2 days, breathless and white as a ghost. She said she found what they came for, but that also said that she disturbed something that should have been left sleeping. So that's where we're headed.
Yeah, so there we go. So basically, a leader managed to tell you some information about navigating the caves under Carvosti, and here is where you're going to find out more about some kind of gate mechanism or something. Presumably, it's not a big stretch. That gate is under Carvosti or leads to under Carvosti.
It seems likely, doesn't it?
Seems very likely. There we go. Okay, let's bring on our next player, which is Sam. Sam plays Ascarai, our changeling scout and ranger and killer of many things before I'm ready for them to die with that bow of his. Although we have some interest, we'll talk about it after we do the recap, but we've got some rules that we haven't been implementing very well, and we're going to talk about why, what they are and why we're going to bring them in and what we've changed about them from the core book. But yeah, Sam, how are you? How is our favorite archer?
Pretty good. I'm excited to see what on earth we find in this ruin. If we find it today, Ascarai is maybe probably a little bit less excited to find that, but we'll find out nonetheless.
Absolutely. And finally, we have our last player, Chris. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman in the horrible, harrowing Dark Wars of Death and Destruction, turned guard sergeant, and now sellsword. Chris, how's you? How's Steo?
Exactly the opposite from Anton. I'm terrible, but Steo's doing fine.
I would like to flag that in typical I guess, sort of people from this particular corner of Europe. We definitely asked Chris how he was when he arrived pre-stream, and he went, "Yeah, fine." So that just tells you how dishonest we all are with each other in this part of the world. Yeah.
I leave it to the viewer to choose which one was the lie.
Which one was the lie, and which one was betting starts now. No, so. As a summary of what happened last time, so we picked up with the party along with their treasure hunting ally Degesto and a couple of fortune hunters that he had contracted. As you say, you were on your way to Fria. The route to Fria led through a Sun Temple ruin, quite a famous Sun Temple ruin, where some artifacts were found a while ago that, well, in the last story arc, you had a little bit to do with them, let's say. But the Sun Temple, as it was now, is basically an excavation site with quite a lot of resources pumped into it from the Sun Church, from the Ordo Magica, from the Templars. And you basically had a look around there, did a bit of sightseeing. It provoked some conversations about faith between Anton and Alindra that were quite interesting to listen along to. You did pick up a bit of information about the ruins of Fria. You found out they were about 3 days' travel north from the Sun Temple. You found out that somewhere along the way you'll encounter a big swamp that you have to circle. And you also found out that, you already knew, I suppose, that a couple of your competitors' groups had sort of retreated from Fria in the last week or so. The somewhat antagonistic troll hunter Cleaver and the group of Black Cloaks led by Father Augusto as well. I think that more or less about covers it. We just basically left off with you traveling north from the Sun Temple ruins, I think. That's probably about it. Okay, let's talk a bit about the rules we're going to change, and by change I mean run properly. Line of sight. It's been no secret that the DPS machine in the group for a while now has been Ascarai. And essentially, that might be partly because we haven't been using line of sight rules. Line of sight in the game, I'll actually read a bit of it out because Sam was kind enough to copy them into our chat here. Not your chat, our chat. You're not allowed in our chat. Ranged weapons cannot shoot past other combatants, meaning the shooter or the mystic may need to use movement actions to maneuver for them to have line of sight. A rule of thumb is that if a shooter or a mystic stands behind an ally, so that the targeted enemy is forced to trigger a free attack to reach the shooter, then the target is obscured from view by the shooter's ally. So essentially, what that means is if your arrow would have to go through someone's engagement range to strike an enemy, you can't take the shot. Now, obviously, this limits archery and other range stuff a little bit. At the beginning of the battle, Askarai will probably have to maneuver and spend a turn or two to kind of get into position to fire, which is honestly fine by me because it will stop him icing big hard enemies on the first round of combat. But we decided to make a couple of adjustments to this, a couple of little homebrew things to this, because certain circumstances entered my head and I thought, well, that's not fair in this or whatever. But it also gave us an excuse to do something which we've been intending to do for a while, which is introduce consequences for rolling 20s with ranged combat. So we decided that there are two exceptions to this. One is if Askarai has a height advantage and therefore can shoot down over people. The other is if the enemy is large enough, like a troll or something, where line of sight really wouldn't be much of an issue because you just aim higher than his allies, right? We decided that in those circumstances, Askarai can indeed take shots through engagement zones, but if he rolls a 20, the shot hits a random, not necessarily an ally, but a random person whose engagement zone it goes through, which will probably be an ally, might not be. Yeah, so that's what we've decided to do. That's it, really. That was probably a very exciting discussion for everyone out there. But there we go. In case you wonder why our range stuff works a bit differently, that's why. That's why. There we go. Better late than never. Okay. So you set off from the Sun Temple. Probably, let's say it's now the evening of your first day of travel, and nothing significant happened during that journey. But as you settle down for camp that evening, it suddenly occurs to you that a bit of examination of your supplies and your rations and kind of calculating how much longer you have on what you've gathered with you before things start getting a little bit complicated out here in Davakar. Behind the scenes, again, we did a bit of juggling of like what was brought, because essentially what was bought to go on this journey was for the journey to New Earthmore and back with a bit of a buffer zone. And we are now in that buffer zone because we're diverting to Faramarion along the way. So the shorthand we've kind of created is that there is enough food to get to Faramarion and return to Karvosti. But how long you stay in Faramarion starts to impact those supplies. And what I'd like Askarai to do, because Askarai is the group's hunter, is I want you to make 4 hunting rolls, and we'll just use a vigilant roll for that. Would it be vigilant or cunning? I think it'd be vigilant. I think I'm fine with vigilant, which is probably good because I imagine Askarai's cunning probably isn't amazing.
His cunning's like average. His vigilant is best by a long way.
Okay. So if you make 4 vigilant rolls, and basically for every success, you can take a day's worth of supplies. Because I did think about making it more generous than that, but I do think A, hunting in Davakar is dangerous, and B, you've got to remember that if you even if you shoot, if you shoot a deer, you can, carve meat off that deer and cook it, and then you have to just fucking leave the rest of it behind because you can't carry raw meat with you.
Yeah,
and you're not going to cure or salt it on the road.
I also think the other thing is like we are traveling as well. It's not like we're stopping to hunt. We're heading in a direction. If we don't find stuff near the way we're going, then we can't like go tracking things. Anyway, I rolled 3 out of 4 successes, but one of them was a 1. I don't know if that means anything, but
okay. Well, for a 1, I'll say that you had a lot of success with shooting things that maybe will keep a bit longer. I can't imagine what, or gathering, because obviously, like, if you find, fruits and vegetables and things like that, they will last a bit longer, and you can carry them with you to a certain degree. Maybe you found a good kind of patch of kind of nuts and berries or something like that. So I'd say you've got 4 days worth. So that's your cushion. If you start to stay at Fria more than 4 days, you better get lucky on your journey back, or be able to purchase provisions from someone else, or you're going to arrive in Carvosti hungry. And if it goes way longer than that, you might be in trouble. Yeah. So there you go.
4 days.
4 days. Which you might think, oh, that's fine. And then a little later, you'll probably see what I'm doing with the Fria map. So there we go. Is there anything special on this first day, or the camp in the evening? Kind of anything you want to talk about or discuss? DeGesto's just kind of tramping along, perfectly happy. But is there anything anyone else wants to address?
I just wanted to double check. So that's 4 days from now before we're out of food again.
You can be at Fria for 4 days.
Oh, okay. And get back at least to the Sun Temple.
Yeah. If you are there 4 days or less, you can get back to Carvosti with food.
Okay. Otherwise, we've got to figure something out.
Mm-hmm. Of course, maybe you could do a bit of hunting at Fria as well, but sure, that's the kind of general thing.
It was described as a swamp, and I don't know how good the hunting is in a swamp.
Not great is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Also, to clarify, I believe it might be a haunted swamp.
all the
Even
best
worse.
swamps are.
Maybe we can make a haunted gumbo out of some ingredients that we find there.
Suddenly, it's all going a bit Monkey Island. Sure. So, it sounds like people are perfectly happy to let that first day kind of pass. So, you're striding along on the second day. Again, you haven't kind of heard or seen anything particularly untoward. You're not quite in Dark Davokar at this point. There is this sort of distinction between Bright Davokar and Dark Davokar. You've only ever been in Bright Davokar. You're not quite at Dark Davokar yet, but you're certainly moving in the direction of it. And you definitely start to notice a number of things, kind of the style, the type of the species of trees kind of starts to get maybe a little less consistent. Like there's a lot more trees like occupying the same space and kind of tangling over each other. The footing is getting a bit more difficult to wade through, the underbrush a bit more thick. You start to hear kind of animal cries you haven't really heard before in Davokar, although hearing an unfamiliar animal cry is probably quite a regular thing in Davokar, but even more so here. At one point you hear kind of the roaring of something in the distance that sounds like something you definitely don't want to mess with, but fortunately it doesn't seem to cross your path. Is there any change in our behavior or any kind of like interplay between each other based off this, or are we just kind of trudging forward heads down?
Askra is probably very interested in this, like, change, and might be asking Anton, like, what's that tree? Like, what's that plant? Feels like Anton might have a bit more knowledge, even having never been here, but just through some kind of... Anton seems smart. He probably knows what some of this stuff is.
This is... The flora and fauna of Davokar is not something that's really covered too much in the Sun Temple, unfortunately. So I think my knowledge is of that much use to us here.
What level of lore master have you got, Mike?
1.
Oh yeah. No, probably not. Sure.
I guess we're kind of pushing Asteroid towards the front of, like, if we're kind of like single filing like through trails and paths and stuff like that. I guess Asteroid's at the front, right?
He usually
Probably
is, I'd imagine so. Yeah. Okay. Well then, it sounds like mostly we're just like moving forward, quite aware, trying to be quite quiet, probably. and cause as little disturbance in the forest as possible. You know, even De Gesto has lost a bit of his usual bluster. He stopped kind of lighting those foul-smelling cigars and is just kind of like trudging quite wearily through the forest, kind of his head on like a constant swivel of just like watching left and right, just to be sure. And as the day progresses, you know what, Askarai, can you give me, please, a vigilant roll? And I'd say it's probably about level. No modifiers.
I just make it. I need a 16. I roll a 15.
Okay. In that case, way before you get to it, it's probably about 200 meters ahead. You see up ahead of you quite a rare sight in Davokar, a treeless ridge. Kind of just, you can see the top of it just above the tree line in front of you, and you can see like about 200 meters ahead through very small gaps in the woodland. You can see the start of it kind of moving up to kind of sort of occupy most of your eye line ahead of you, and on top of that you see what looks like 3 huge sort of oddly cast but strikingly beautiful pillars that glitter slightly in the late winter sun. 2 of them are a sort of pleasant golden brown color, and the other one is a glittering and vibrant blue-green. Can you give me, please, a cunning roll at +5 because you've got Beast Law?
Okay. I need a 15. I rolled a 12, so I make it.
Okay. So these, you're very familiar. You may have seen a couple of these before. You've certainly heard of them. These structures are called Ettercops. They are made of a kind of rarish type of gemstone called Ettercopal. It is a precious building material. The building material of these pillars, not people use them as gemstones. Ettercopal often attracts treasure hunters, but they have to be brave enough to face the residents of the pillars, swarms of 4-arm-long winged carnivorous Ettermites.
Attracts treasure hunters for the material of the pillars to like mine it or like destroy it and take it back.
Mine it, but it's dangerous because the Ettermites tend to swarm out when that happens, and people. So you've heard of basically operations where you get some people kind of like mining, and the other people have to like try and protect from the swarms of Ettermites as they do so. But it's quite valuable. You also do know in Thistlehold, like people talk of kind of very professional operations where people come out into Davokar with a substance called Ettersleep, which is a material that basically lulls these Ettermites into. You don't think it actually puts them to sleep, but it pacifies them, it dulls their senses. You definitely don't have any of that. It's expensive stuff, and there's all sorts of rumors about its provenance and its various sort of issues to do with its lack of kind of availability.
Okay.
But either way, people come out into Davokar and search for months for these without finding them.
Okay.
So it's certainly something to report, and at least part of your mind probably falls on to the notion that it's something of an opportunity.
Astro will stop, and depending on how far ahead he is, wait for the others to catch up. And probably while he's doing that, at the very least, we have like a rough map, and he'll mark as best as he can this location on the rough map that he has.
Sure.
And wait for the others to catch up. And when they do, say some Ettercops up there.
Let's have people. I want people who've hung out in adventuring circles before to a certain degree. So I want Steo to roll cunning, and I would like Anton just to roll cunning for a lawmaster as well. And if you succeed, you have all the information that Askarai already had.
Fail.
Well, De Gesto for his part, kind of tramps forward a bit and peers up at the Ettercops on the ridge and says, "Well, sun shit me."
Etter what?
They're like pillars of a material that would sell for good money in Thistlehold. Very good money. But there's creatures in there or around there that would be difficult to deal with. I think if we were just out here not doing anything, this could be a huge find. But I don't know. It's risky to try and get any of it, let alone when we have limited time and.
Why is one a different color, Askrai?
I don't really know. Perhaps.
DeGesto says rarer. I don't know why, though.
Even better.
So, what are these things that live there?
They're like flying creatures that just attack as soon as you try and harvest any of this or mine any of this stuff. I don't know where they come from or what they are, but they seem to defend these pillars somehow.
I heard tell they were like big spiky insects. Ettermites, they're called.
Okay.
I've seen a group come back to Thistlehold with sacks full of the stuff. Lived off it for months.
So it's like disturbing a bee's nest, but in Davokar.
Yeah, probably worse.
And if the honey was worth
In
hundreds of thala.
Is it heavy?
No. I've had a couple of chunks myself just to sell on.
I guess the question is then, do the Ettermites attack when people get close, or do they attack because they get disturbed by people trying to mine the stuff? What I'm getting at is, what if DeGesto was able to place a charge, and after we set the charge off, we leave this alone and come back and pick through it in a couple of days when it's settled down?
It's a bloody good idea if I had any charges left.
So
this is why I wanted to go back to Karvosti.
I will take out the one fire grenade that I didn't use during the battle and go, well, is this any use?
I mean, it might blow a chunk out of it, but the main thing it's going to do is set it all on fire.
Is it
Do any of us even
flammable?
have? Do any of us have anything we could use to harvest this with to get any of it?
DeGesto says, you just need a knife. You can
Right.
shave it off.
My opinion is, let's see how we are. Let's head back this way when we're coming back from Farmaroon, see what state we're in. Like, we do need to recoup some of the money we've spent on this whole expedition, but on the way back, it feels like we have a better idea of what time and what resources we'll have to spare. Right now, it's hard.
Counterpoint, there are a number of groups who are going to be on this path.
Can you guarantee that we'll come back this way, Changeling? I mean, we're just heading directly north. There's no path.
I can't guarantee it, but I can. If we try and leave some kind of trail, maybe marks on the trees as we head up north from here, I think I can probably get us back here. It's never a guarantee in Davokar. These things might get up and walk off tomorrow, but I think we have a good shot.
If we think we could get close, we could maybe see if there's, left shards, windfall. other people, unfortunate people's not quite bounties?
It's worth a look so long as we're ready to clear out at the first sign of trouble.
I think we should take a closer look.
right.
DeGesto literally has a large knife out and is sort of like gripping it thoughtfully as he's looking up at the pillars on the ridge.
I'm going
How are we
to
getting
draw.
up though? That's a hell of a climb.
It's definitely it is like definitely an incline to it, but it's one you can like, you know, tramp up like sort of hill walking style.
All right. Let's take a look.
Okay.
I'm gonna cast Blessed Shield.
Okay.
Anticipating of this going absolutely tits up.
Sure. Make me that roll, please.
Yep, I make it. And who should I include in the effects of it? Is anyone injured?
Don't think so at this stage.
No. I guess maybe Askarai, because like I don't think that arrow is going to be that useful against anything that's flying, so he's maybe a bit more vulnerable. Let's go with that.
Okay, Askarai, you feel kind of I don't know if you've had a Blessed Shield on you before, probably, but you feel a kind of warmth, kind of an unseasonable warmth glide over you as you hear Anton kind of incanting his prayers to Prios behind you.
Askarai will laugh. Say, feeling optimistic then, priest? Expecting this to go well, are we?
I don't see the sense in taking any chances now that we're further into Davokar than we've ever been before. And
Smart.
if you don't enjoy the warmth of Prios enveloping you, I can make sure that his light falls on someone else in the future.
No, I'm very grateful indeed. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
DeGesto is sort of at the front of the group here, and you can't help but notice that despite his build and his age to a certain degree, he moves like kind of like hunched over like a bear with kind of very, very wide steps, making a remarkably low amount of noise as he does so. If you want reference, his discreet is 16, which doesn't seem appropriate for his personality, but
He's the least
it is what it
discreet
is.
character I've come across in role playing.
Well, there we go. And he kind of hears you talking and kind of looks back over his shoulder and kind of looks at Anton and says, "Nothing wrong with a little bit of pessimism, Father. That's what I always say." Yeah, you are significantly closer to the Ettercops now, close enough that you can hear. I mean, you can hear a buzzing, but in all honesty, it's more like feeling a vibration running up kind of through your feet and into your knees and legs and kind of in the air around you. Every now and then, as you get closer, you do see a kind of were they described as being a foot long? I think forearm long. So yeah, about a foot long. He said, looking at his arm for reference, kind of a foot long, slightly. I mean, they do look a bit kind of wasp like, but in that they have, you know, like segments, and the rear one is a bit larger, but they're definitely more. They're less curled than a wasp, more straight out, and they have sort of 4 flickering wings, and they occasionally buzz out of one pillar, maybe into another or around the top a little bit. They don't seem to be paying you a huge amount of attention yet, but they do. You know, they're fairly large insects or insect-like creatures, and you can imagine a whole swarm of them would definitely not be pleasant. But also, as you get closer, first off, you can see the Ettercops a lot better. You can see the kind of glinting gem-like surfaces of them. But also you can see that the composition of them, if you imagine, is quite like geometric, you know, like sort of that kind of volcanic rock deposits where they become very like pillars in themselves of like hexagons or octagons or the like. They're like those kind of packed together and rising out of the like treeless ridge, like I don't know, like you know, a very thick blade has been kind of jammed into the earth. Also about 15 feet away from the pillar, you can see what appears to be the body of a goblin. A goblin dressed in Ambrian clothes.
I'd like to see if the goblin has any of this material in his possession or around his body.
Well, you're about, I would say, probably about 40 feet away from the Ettercops right now. You can creep up to the goblin and see what the goblin may or may not have on him, but you're definitely getting kind of close to the Ettercops at that point. So whether you want to exercise a bit of discretion about that is up to you.
Yes. I would like to exercise some discretion.
Okay. Then give me a discreet roll, please, against the Ettermites Vigilant, which is flat. So just a flat discreet roll, please.
Yeah, 13 or less. I rolled a 6, so I make it.
As you get closer, obviously that kind of vibrating sensation gets more intense and the buzzing gets louder. But otherwise, the Ettermites don't seem to notice you. You creep over to the goblin. There's nothing kind of remarkable about the goblin themselves or the clothes they're wearing. They have a what seems to be fairly basic kind of fortune hunter outfit and equipment on them. And you know what? Give me a D6 roll for how many pieces of Etterkoppel they have spilling out of a satchel by their side.
Okay, that's 2.
That is 2, and we're going to. Where's the thing on the cost of them? Okay, so we'll say that one of them is quite a humdrum random piece of Etterkoppel that has just like a shard that's been hacked off. The other is kind of again, it's just been hacked off, but it's sort of forming, like a knot would form in bark. It's like that, but for a gemstone, where the shard on either side of it comes together in a large sort of bulbous, swirling, gem-like item. And these are gems. I don't want you to think it's entire pillars made of ruby or emerald or whatever. These are gemstones more in the way that amber is a gemstone, in that it's gem-like rather than an actual gem. It looks very pretty, and it is it is one of the kind of golden brown ones, and it looks like a bit like amber, a bit like topaz, or other kinds of kind of goldish, brownish gems. They're quite nice.
I will pick them up and try and maybe I'll pick up the satchel, I guess, and put them in it.
Yeah, and also, in fact, if you give me a cunning roll, I'll tell you how much they're worth.
Okay. I need to beat a 10. I roll a 3, so I make it.
3. Okay. The more humdrum piece is worth 1 thaler. And it's not very large. It's, maybe not very heavy at all. The larger one with the kind of knotted section is probably worth 5 thaler.
Okay.
And again, you could easily pack this satchel that this goblin is carrying with probably 30 to 40 pieces without it becoming burdensome.
Okay, so it's a lot of thaler.
Could be. If you suspect you'd have to be quite good at carving it off pick the right bits, i.e. there's a roll.
I will bring the satchel back to the group with with the things in it and show them off. It's a goblin up there, dead, but obviously had a bit of it with him.
How dead?
How long dead did the goblin look?
Again, cunning roll, please. You don't have Medicus, do you?
Nope. I rolled a 1.
Oh, there we go then. You would estimate that the goblin is less than a week old, but more than a day or so old.
Okay.
I mean, realistically, without medical training, that's all you're probably getting.
A few days. Not that long at all.
Would it be a reasonable conclusion to jump to that this might be one of Cleaver's crew then?
It would 100% be a reasonable conclusion, yes. He had goblins with him who looked quite like this goblin, and several members of his party were a bit battered. It's definitely not a stretch to imagine that this was one of Cleaver's crew.
Okay.
Are there any obvious sort of like holes on the columns that could be where these insects are coming in and out of?
Give me a vigilant roll.
2.
You know what? You can't see holes, but as you're watching, you see an Ettermite flitter out between. You know how I described how they're sort of geometric shards packed together? You see an Ettermite come out of like the gap between one shard and another shard. So you think it's more like that isn't like a hole, like a beehive that like they all pour through, but it's more like, I don't know, like I guess like a termite mound, or like even a wasp's nest, where like they're kind of, the whole thing is like layers, and they're kind of coming out between the I don't know.
So there's no like
of it, the flutes of it.
There's no one single entrance way, or
no.
Okay,
no. That you could like block up or whatever. No, that doesn't seem.
That's what I was thinking.
I think that was a nice bit of good fortune. I don't want to push our luck.
DeGesto kind of turns around to everyone and says, "Really? Heroes of the sinkhole, afraid of a few wasps?"
I guess so. Aren't you planning on going to Symbar?
Man, I'll get to Symbar.
Yeah,
We've
but if
got
you don't
here.
get if you don't get to Symbar, it'll be because you're dead, not because you're not trying to get there.
There's a lot of ways to get dead between here and Symbar.
If
Well,
you're dead,
what
then
if you-
this is not going to do you any good. We got to get.
We've got
What if
more
we-
important places to go and get dead.
What if you
Yeah,
get
look.
dead from the giant bugs?
Let's ask
There are
her.
a
You got a
fair
map.
few of us to fend them off.
My vote is to come here on the way back. I think we can very likely find it, and if whatever is in Far Maroon has ruined us and we're struggling, then we can leave it. And if we've got out of Far Maroon unscathed, then sure, we can deal with some Ettermites. But I think it's better to wait until we're on the back. It also saves us carrying it for a few days, especially through a swamp.
Again, assuming it's still here, and assuming we can find it.
They're quite big.
This is your first time in Davakar, isn't it?
Yeah. I would feel easier about this if we had some kind of plan, any kind of plan, to get some material off those pillars without swarm of giant bugs.
That seems like a good thought to go.
Like,
to,
if we
to
had
start with.
any plan whatsoever other than just payday in our eyes.
Well, how do they normally get things out of bug nests? I mean, they have to harvest honey somehow, don't they?
If people don't have Ettersleep, which I'm assuming no one is carrying in their back pocket, they go there. Some people hack chunks of Etterkoppel off, and the others fight off the swarm with weapons. We have these things. I'm just saying. Look, it sounds like I'm in the minority here. Well, it has to be said, DeGesto's companions also seem pretty keen on the idea. And you've let me tag along. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm saying it's a hell of an opportunity. Just seems a shame is all. Look at it. That one's not even brown.
Have you done this before, DeGesto?
I've done it before. I've talked to people about it who have done it.
Are both the shards that I got from the goblin brown?
Uh-huh.
Do I have any idea if the exact shards I had were of the not brown pillar? Do I know what they'd be worth? Can I make a cunning roll to see if I know?
Let's say double.
Okay. So 2 and 10. That's not bad.
So,
Oh, not you
if,
too.
if he were to follow DeGusto's plan, hear me out, Steve. We're just thinking here, thinking and talking at this stage. If we were to follow DeGusto's plan, one person carves off the stones, everyone else fights, and then at some point we run, or they stop attacking us.
We might not even need everyone to fight. He does some quick kind of mental arithmetic, which I will also have to do. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There were 11 of us. Not counting the cat.
You should count the cat.
What about these creatures? How dangerous are they? Like, are we talking like one sting, one bite, and
they're big bugs with nasty spikes on them.
Poisonous?
I'm not
venomous.
I think he probably would know that, so I will just double check myself. Aye, they've got a bit of poison to them. Other people in groups smaller than ours and not as well armed as ours do this.
I think one point in favor of this is after this, we're heading out. I guess I'm sure you know this information too. We're probably heading out to an island. We're going to need a boat. We're going to need money to get a boat. We don't own a boat. So we need some money.
You own boats, don't you?
We own canoes, I guess. We could canoe.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the lake, doesn't it?
Even our canoes are more or less rented. Are they bought or rented?
No, you bought them, but the vendor said he'd buy them back if they weren't damaged. It's actually worth noting, and here's a little plug for our spin-off series from our main campaign called Fetters of Stone, that introduced Sir Aaron Dar, who was in a timely fashion gone off stream. But it is worth noting that unlike the rest of you have only really seen, I think Steo, Askar, and Anton have seen the south of Lake Volgoma when you went up back in the Copper Crown series. So Aaron Dar has seen the north of Lake Volgoma. And you would say that most of the islands you saw in Lake Volgoma, Aaron, are navigable too with a good sturdy canoe. If the water's good, if the weather's good, if asterisk. So
sighing, Steo is going to kind of drop his travel pack and unhitch his spear.
Lynn just gonna look at the bag, the satchel that Askar took off the goblin, and just say, that satchel is worth twice as much as all the money I own.
Well, this is taking a turn. What did I say?
I think we've just realised how poor we are, DeGusto. Askar and Anton, I can see in their eyes right now, are thinking about how much they've spent on explorers' licenses.
Had to cross my mind, I have to say.
We have to get paid.
Right. We've come into Davokar to do a job, and we knew that we were going to have to loot Davokar for riches at some point, right? And do we want to do it here with these, or do we want to go underground into a temple, into a ruin? Like, there's no good options. All options are dangerous.
I'm still comparatively new to Davokar. Are there places in Davokar where you can go where there are just heaps of treasure there for the taking? Yeah. Are there?
Well, for some quantities of there for the taking. But
I mean, and I'm being quite specific about what those
Elindra, there absolutely are, and I can sell you a map there for 100 thaler.
Let's go and hack some things off these pillars.
DeGusto has a look on his face like quite a surprised but extremely happy wolf, and he turns around and just starts creeping up towards the pillars. I would like please, everyone to give a flat, discrete roll. And what I want is the majority of people in the group to pass. I'm not going to bother with DeGesto and his crew. I want 3 of you to pass the have we done? So we've got a pass and a fail.
Elindra passed. I rolled for
Elindra
Revelia
passed.
and she didn't. I don't know if that's relevant.
Well, Antom and Aaron have both flubbed it. So with that in mind, I'd say you probably make it about 10 feet.
Farron passes.
I didn't ask for the companions, did I? You make it about 10 feet from the Ettercops before the vibrating under your feet rises to what feels like a mild earthquake, essentially, the ridge that you're on. And swarms of Ettermites burst out from halfway up the Ettercops, the top of the Ettercops. They kind of divide into 2 distinct swarms that kind of circle around and start to descend on the group as you make your way forwards. So let's go to combat, please, folks. This will be quite an interesting combat, I think. So we've got our group here, John. And then we've got the Ettermites, who have a vigilant 10. It's quick first, isn't it? They have quick 15 and vigilant 10. So they're probably going to go fairly early in the sequence of things. And then we've got DeGesto and his fortune hunters, who
I've got both of them already.
Oh, of course you already have both of them already. Thank you. And just to prepare for this moment, there you go. I don't know who those. They're probably 2 of DeGesto's fortune hunters, right?
It's as if you knew we were going to get baited into this.
Yeah,
as if I knew. Yeah,
this is from the chapter of the book called the Outcomes of Avarice.
So, with that in mind, have we got the... I'm clicking on the wrong things here. Yeah, whenever you're ready, John, we shall have the initiative up. And for once, I actually think it might not be... I don't know if it is Askarai going first. But we will find out.
Askarai is 15-15. Because
I'm actually 16-15. I know, I'm only 16-16 now. I don't know exactly
16-16 because you use your... Is it your vigilant instead of your quick or something?
Yeah, and I've got an extra point in vigilant now. So I'm very good.
I'll update my records accordingly.
I think you might need the enemies on there, John.
Oh, damn it.
Also, isn't Ferrin F-E-R-I-N?
No, it's Ferrin, because it's just the masculine form of Ferra.
Okay.
I always had Ferrin down as being spelled with a Y, so...
Oh, maybe it was Y. I've got it down here as an A.
It's literally your cat, John. Like,
no, he can't spell.
Also, we should point out that I don't know how much the rest of the group are aware that Ferrin is named after a character in Fetters of Stone.
Yes.
I did not know that.
It's not John's spelling. So there we go. Oh, DeGesto, look at you on the end there, causing a problem.
Have I spelled Ettermites right?
No, it's basically instead of an A, it's ER. But other than that, we're good. So, yes, Askarai. These things are swarming in the sky at the moment. There's no line of sight issues. You can fire at them as you wish. You cannot see any difference between the 2 swarms.
Okay. Askarai is just gonna... I imagine we're still like walking forward, so he's gonna keep with his movement, like walk up to these pillars.
Yeah, sure, you can do that. Yeah.
Actually, he's not gonna move because he's gonna use 2 shots. 2 shots against these guys seems better than an armor piercing.
Sure.
So he's gonna stay where he is. Take two shots.
Okay.
What do they have any modifier on there to hit?
They do. Their defense is a -5.
Ooh, okay, I need an 11. I guess the first one I shoot, I'm going to appoint as my hunter's instinct target. Makes some sense. Okay, that's a 20, but I get 2 attempts to hit it, so I guess I roll again.
Go for it.
Okay, that hits. That's an 8. And then the damage is a D10 plus a D4 plus 1, which is 6 damage.
Okay. And now is where the fun begins. Ettermites are a swarm, and the level of swarm they have means they don't have armor, but any damage you deal is quartered.
Okay.
And given that when damage NPCs deal, because usually when the damage they deal is like the die roll, but averaged and halved, and it's halved, and half is actually below the average. So I always round down when I'm doing any Symbaroum calculation. So a quarter of 6 is 1, right? John? Yeah?
If you're rounding down every time, yeah.
Yeah, I am. So there we go. I'll say from that, your arrow does saw through the swarm Ascarai, and it clearly pierces an Ettermite, which kind of thrashes around and buzzes its wings in an odd fashion. And then the arrow kind of carries on going in a big parabola that arcs over and hits into the tree line. I will say any arrow you fire in this combat, you don't roll for recovery of them. You're not going to find them.
That's fair.
Fly off.
Okay.
So you have killed an Ettermite, but
yeah. I'll take my second shot. See it. Hopefully a bit better.
Same swarm.
Yep. Same thing. Okay, I roll a 3, so that hits. I guess I can. And then the damage is 12.
Well, that's a lot better, isn't it? So that's going to be 3, right? So you fire another shot, and this time your aim is a little more in, and you're more used to the idea of firing at this sort of wafting cloud of clawed insects, and you see a couple of them kind of like tumble to the ground. You don't even see where your arrow goes once it's gone into it, but you see a couple of the Ettermites crash to the ground and are sort of flickering and spasming on the ground along the ridge. Okay. Well, that's it for you, right? That's your double shot?
Yep. That's it.
Okay. Well, then the Ettermites are going to buzz down, and we're going to take it gently with me here, folks, because this is my first time running an enemy that has wings. So there's a number of things, and I will just straight up tell you them, because then you can correct me when I get them wrong. Okay? So firstly, during movement actions, free attacks do not trigger for passing through engagement zones. Right? Passing through engagement zones. So they can move past people without triggering engagement zone, without triggering a free attack. Secondly, they can hover in midair, which doesn't count as an action. That's fine, yeah. The last one is the interesting one. Things with wings can split their movement action to either side of their combat action. So in other words, they can swoop down, attack, and then go back. All of which means, if they choose to do that, on your turns, you can't attack them unless you're attacking them at range. However, I have chosen to interpret this, and I could be wrong. It says that they can go through past people without triggering a free action. I think that is different to disengaging. So I think what happens is they swoop, they attack, and if they choose to move away, you get a free attack for the disengagement on you. I think that's what that means. Does anyone think that doesn't sound right? And does anyone in chat no, they definitely don't get attacked when they disengage? If they don't get attacked when they disengage, essentially it means you can never attack them with melee, which seems not right to me if they're swooping down on you and you would hit them as they kind of come in, you know. Does that sound right to people, maybe?
It sounds right to me. What do we think about how that affects with like long engagement?
Yeah.
I think you would get a long attack as they come in on you, yeah.
Because we're still being engaged, so it still procs.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's
What we don't get is the long engagement from them entering the zone of conflict, which is how my long works, my advanced long.
No, I think engaging you. I think you do. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I get them if they pass through my zone of influence as well. So
oh yeah. You wouldn't get that. Yeah, you wouldn't get that. Yeah. Well, I think anyone gets them if they move through their engagement zone. Anyone gets an attack, but I think maybe people normally get one attack, and you get I can't remember, but either way, that's a trigger for them. Yeah.
The other thing with long that we should probably clear up before we start is that like Steo and I both have things where we can like push enemies back. Like Steo pushes like back out of engagement range, and Lindra can do something similar after a successful defense per turn.
Yeah.
Is that applicable to a swarm?
I'd say it is applicable.
Okay.
But there's another thing here. They can attack 3 people a turn in engagement range.
Right.
So I'd say you can drive them away from attacking you, but not whoever else it is they're attacking.
Okay.
Complex. But it'll be fine. It's fine. So first off, I'm going to say, and I'm going to randomly, I guess you could tell me who is stood next to who, but I'm just going to randomly roll for it, honestly. So the first Ettermite swarm is swooping down. They're going to target firstly Askarai, and then secondly, the other 2 people close enough to Askarai who they can also attack is going to be Steo, and it's going to be Father Anton. Okay? So, with that in mind, what they're doing now, they're coming in to attack you. Steo, you get a free attack because of long as they come in, and then you can choose whether or not to let them, because I guess you might actually want to not drive them back with this, because you'll get another, if you do, you won't get another free attack when they swoop back up into the air, right? So
that's kind of it's
at the risk of getting hit, I guess. So with that in mind, let's get Steo's attack on them first. And this is the swarm that Askarai shot at. So an attack. Give me an attack at -5, please, Steo.
So it's 9 or better because I failed my first roll of the day, so I'm afflicted by elderly.
Ooh,
that's a 14. That's not going anywhere.
Ooh. That's not going anywhere. So that free attack fails. So we'll move on to the Ettermites attacking you 3 now. So all 3 of you, Askarai, Anton, Steo, can you roll defense, please, at -3?
Yep.
Okay, that's just Father Anton failed that. So can you give me an armor roll, please, Father Anton?
That is 8.
Ooh, with that blessed shield. You know, they swarm on you, and you are close enough to see one's chittering face kind of inches from yours. It's you'd say oddly like goblin-like, or even slightly human-like, with sort of odd, it has kind of cat-like eyes, you know, sort of like oval eyes with sort of slits in them, and a little gnashing mouth full of sharp teeth. But there is an odd sort of like humanoid cast to the faces, not to the rest of it, that it's just uncomfortable for certain. And let's say there's an odd smell coming off them as well, like a smell of, let's say, like a smell of, well, Anton probably knows. I don't know if Mike knows. You know how tree sap has a very kind of rich smell to it, kind of tangy, not always pleasant. It has that to it, like a slight sweetness, a slight tanginess to it that sort of washes over you a little bit. But your blessed shield sort of sparkles and sets those kind of sun dog effects off, and you see a number of the insects kind of like twist away in kind of not pain, but just kind of like startled surprise at these glinting lights, and none of them manage to bite or sting or slash at you. You're still unsure which bit of their body you should be fearing, to be honest. Okay. They are now going to swoop up. So if any of you want to get a free attack on them as they disengage, you can do so. But I would say for Askarai, you can't do it with your bow. So it's up to you. Like, yeah, you have your bow out, so
yeah, I'm not gonna swap to my thing. I didn't even think I could, so I won't take an attack.
Sure. So Anton and Steo, can you give an attack at -5, please? Nope. Yeah, you both kind of like thrust and flail kind of wildly at the air as the Ettermites flitter around you, and they buzz off into the sky, unharmed, untouched. The other swarm is going to swoop in to, let's say, so they're going to let's say they focus on DeGesto's group, and they swarm down on DeGesto, a fortune hunter, and one unlucky member of our party. So that's going to be Arindar. There we go. So you only get a reactive strike if something strikes at you and misses, right? Is that correct, Arindar?
Correct.
Okay. So if you could roll, please, a what was I going to say? A attack roll at no, a defense. Sorry, I'm terrible tonight with numbers. A defense roll at -3, please, John.
I pass.
Okay, there we go. Then take your attack on it at -5, please.
-5 is a hit, and I deal 10 damage, which is 2 damage.
2, right? Yeah. So this is the other swarm that Askarai didn't strike first, but you definitely kind of thrust out, and I think you'll just straight up like pierce one of the Ettermites on the end of your blade, and kind of it starts like sliding down a bit too fast and unpleasantly, and you have to kind of like whip it to make it tumble off through the air with a nasty chittering noise. DeGesto for his part and the Fortune Hunter. I'm not going to kind of track their health in this, I don't think. But should I? Probably shouldn't I? Well, let's just check what DeGesto's. DeGesto's probably fine, honestly. DeGesto is just like wailing around him with the kind of fire tube he uses as a warhammer, and they're sort of swarming around him, but also giving him a fairly wide berth. The Fortune Hunter is definitely struggling a little bit more, and seems to kind of maybe I'll have to check their stats in a minute, but maybe has kind of been nipped, but you're not entirely sure at this point. The things don't seem to, do a great deal of damage in and of themselves, but you have no idea how potent that poison that was mentioned is going to be. That is that, and then sorry, I'm just doing a bit of calculation there. Okay, time for your attack back as they disengage. So make another attack at -5, please. DeGesto will do the same, and the Fortune Hunter will.
It's sadly a fail from me.
It's a fail from you. Sure, you see that DeGesto sort of quite wild flailing. He's big enough and the fire tube is big enough that, by any calculation of odds, he's probably going to hit something as he kind of like almost circles around his head, and a couple of Ettermites kind of crumple to the ground. Okay, there we go. Both Ettermite swarms have retreated. Elindra, what are you doing?
Okay, so I think as a like we can shout stuff as free actions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Alindra's going to shout to Gesto and the Fortune Hunters. You get to the Ettercops, I'll cover you. And by way of movement, she will move towards them to be, kind of next to them to do that.
Sure.
And I think rather than flailing wildly at the swarms just now, she's then just going to kind of scream wordlessly, having decided that what you really need to deal with a swarm is some form of fire, and what she has available to her is that kind of unholy, kind of baleful fire. So
you're setting your Revenant Strike off.
Yes, that gets me one.
Corruption.
Yeah, it's 1d4.
Yeah.
I rolled a 1.
And
it's an automatic thing. It just takes an action.
It's automatic. Yeah, no problem. So Alindra kind of like takes a few strides closer to the Ettercop to allow to protect people. And did we describe how you probably just did there. You just kind of vocalize, right? And the flame emerges up the blade, the purple dark flame.
Yeah, it's just a sort of blood-curdling cry of rage, I suppose.
Absolutely. Okay, there we go. And what is Revelia doing?
I guess Revelia will stick with Alindra and try to kind of cover Degesto and the treasure hunters, but obviously doesn't have any mysterious mystical powers to kick off, so we'll probably just flail her sword if there's stuff in reach. Sorry, she's got a spear now, hasn't she? Yeah,
she has
her spear.
Yeah. It's worth noting, by the way, obviously anyone could take a combat action to try and carve some Etterkoppel off the Etterkops.
I don't know how far we are from the pillars at this point.
Well, you just said you moved near them, and you were 10 feet away, so you're easily within movement range of them.
Okay. If Revelia is in a position to move to the Etterkops and start hacking away at them, she will do that.
Yep, absolutely. Can you give a roll for me for her? Basically, if you can roll her cunning, please.
Ooh, cunning. She's got cunning 9 and rolled a 13, so no, that's a fail.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to track overall because I'm guessing the intention will be to split this money. So I am going to track successes and failures. Basically, success gets you a nice piece. Failure gets you a normal piece.
Okay.
So I will track the total numbers of those.
Yeah, we didn't talk before this all kicked off about how we were going to divide the stuff up, but Alindra's very much of the opinion that defending is every bit as important as actually hacking pieces off. And if they're not evenly distributed at the end, then Degesto's getting a knife in him. So
extreme, but yes, sure. Yeah. I mean, Ferrin, John. I don't unless the swarm attacks Ferrin. I don't think Ferrin's going to be able to do anything.
Not really. I think Ferrin's going to lie in wait for a good opportunity to attack.
Sure. Yeah.
Little tails lashing, eyes focused on the weird buzzing flying things.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, I will make a thing because otherwise, everyone could just hack and they mechanically, and then they come down and up. I will say that if you've hacked some Etterkoppel off on your turn, when they attack you, you won't have your weapon out. So I do think you have to choose between defending and hacking for at least for the space of a couple of turns or whatever. You see what I mean?
So you're using like a hunting knife or some other kind of tool.
Yeah. So for example, if they swarm down on Revelia now, she won't be able to strike back with her spear. Or
sure.
Yeah. You get what I mean. Okay, Arindar, what are you doing?
I am going to prepare to defend and prepare. I'm going to move towards the Etterkoppel for the defensive. Mm-hmm. I've mangled all of the words. I'm going to be preparing to attack when they swoop.
Yep, sure. Okay. The Fortune Hunters, for their part, are going to do exactly as you suggested, and they're going to each move over and try and carve off some Etterkoppel. Let's have rolls. Well, Stephen already made a roll for Revelia. So everyone who's not Stephen, make a cunning roll for the Fortune Hunters. Their cunning is 10. And then give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down to see how you've done. So Steos and Antoms have carved off a nice bit. Askarai's not so much, and John is still to come.
I'm sorry, I was coughing. What am I rolling again?
Roll against a cunning of 10 for one of the Fortune Hunters, please.
Success.
Yes. So that's 3 successes and a failure. I will log those. One of the Fortune Hunters is notably starting to kind of cough and shake a bit, as presumably as the poison kicks in from the Ettermite bite. So, but for now, she looks sort of, she's still on her feet and hacking away at the Ettercop, so it's probably fine. Probably all fine. Steo.
Are they focusing on the not brown pillar, or are they just...
That's a good question. I'd say just from people standing around it. So how many people we've got? We've got Revelia and 4 Fortune Hunters. I'd say there are 3. Oh, God. I'd say, okay, there's 3 people. I'm going to say there's equal numbers at each. So when we finish this, when I'm calculating the amount, I'll just say half of the successes are the good one, half of the failures are the good one. We'll just split it in half like that. How about that?
That's fine.
Rather than, I don't want to turn this into an immersive sim. So let's pass on that. Steo, what are you doing, if anything?
I am fully attempting to defend. Obviously, I can't do much about them at the minute, but waiting for them to make their move.
Just bracing yourself. Sure. Well, in that case, Anton, what are you going to do?
I've got a question for you. Like, Anton doesn't really have a weapon that he would use to pry the gems out of the Ether things. So could he use a machete to do that, and also use the machete for defense? Because we talked about our characters having machetes.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure what that would be stat-wise, whether we purchased a particular statted thing, but
I've just had a quick look in the rulebook and I couldn't find anything, but maybe...
I mean, I'm happy for it just to be a knife. Yeah. That sounds right. Yeah, okay. You absolutely can. Yeah.
Let's do that then, because then I don't have to miss out on defense and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Well, then give me a cunning roll, Tom.
I make it by 1. That was close.
Okay. So that's another bit of fancy gems. De Gesto he's definitely a bit more reluctant, and he's kind of backing up to his Fortune Hunters, but he's standing a bit away. He's not currently hacking stuff off the pillar. He is stood there sort of hefting that fire tube, kind of like a baseball bat, ready for the next cloud of them to swarm down. So he's not quite done. I think he wants to be sure that they're protected enough first to do so. So he's not quite hacking away yet. Okay, back round to the beginning. Askarai, as the only person who can actually do some damage to these things while they're in the air.
Yeah, I'm gonna take another 2 shots at the first swarm, the one that I shot at before, and hope for the best. There's a -5, right?
It is a -5.
Okay, I do hit. I rolled a 2, and the damage is a D10 and a D4, which is +1, which is 6 damage. So 1 again.
Yep, and do you want to fire the other one?
Yeah, another shot. I rolled a 4, so it hits. The damage is a bit better. 14. Oh, no, that's the wrong dice. It's 12. Still pretty good.
Okay, so that's 3. You fire a couple of arrows off. You're not exactly sure what the first one does, but the second one seems to fall to the ground near the tree line with 2 Ettermites on it, like a fucking kebab, but not one you want to eat. So, well, you might be an adventurous eater. I don't know. Doing anything with your? Oh no, you don't have a movement action because you just fired
No.
twice in a row. Okay, well that swarm is going to swoop down on you, and I don't see any reason not to have the same group of people, sort of again, because that kind of makes sense. So that's going to be you and Steo and Tom has moved. So you know what? Let me make a bit of a roll here and see if that changes. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is going to be Aaron, Ascarai, and Steo. So first off, Steo, if you can make your free long attack, please, as they swarm down on you.
So once again, 9s are better. 6, that's a success.
Hey.
So D10 plus 1. That's 9 damage. Quarter that. Odd number.
So that's 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah, you sort of slash your spear through the air and you feel it hit small chitinous bodies a couple of times, and you hear like a thump to the ground over on one side of you as one of them crashes down to the ground. And then they all get an attack on you. So if the 3 of you, that's the 3 at the left of our screen, could roll defense at -3, please. Okay, Steo has been struck. Could you give me an armor roll, please?
I can, if I can just remember what my armor rating is for the plate. I do believe it's a D10.
Sounds about right.
He says, checking the armor. Yes, it is. Here we go. 2.
Okay. I'd like to describe this a little bit because I think these things are probably fucking horrible to have actually get to you. You know what I mean? But I say that as someone who, one of my abiding childhood memories is walking on holiday in a place very different from the place I grew up, a lot warmer, a lot more, very Mediterranean place. And as I was walking along this pathway towards a nice sandy beach surrounded by trees, I looked down and on my jacket was a mantis that was to my eyes as like a 7-year-old, I would say it was, well, I'd say now it was probably about like that big, right? But because I was 7, it was like that big. And I shrieked and just like flailed and fell over because I was as cool then as I am now. And yeah, it's definitely imprinted as something on me, so that if a big kind of buzzy insect came near me, my probable reaction would be to go, "Oh, fuck off!" So I don't like these things. And I'm going to say, Steo, that one of them kind of, because they're buzzing around and kind of battering against you, and you can feel them like impacting your chest plate. I don't think you have a helmet, do you? But like they're sort of like your shoulder guards and stuff like this. And one of them, and you don't think it even intended it, just goes right there, down in the collar between your neck and kind of the edge of your shoulder guards. And you can feel it like more, it's not like a coherent attack, it's like thrashing and kind of spasming against the side of your neck. And you can feel like scratches starting to open up, and then you feel just a really painful pinch as it gets those teeth into you and gnaws just not a large bit of your flesh, but not, it's never good to have any of your flesh gnawed out. And it sort of like buzzes against you, and as you kind of like pull one hand off from your kind of try and get it out, and it goes off, and you feel a stinging, burning sensation start to spread through your neck and your chest as whatever unpleasant venom it has starts to do its work. The actual initial toughness damage is 2, and we'll talk about the poison when we get to your round.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, it's not nice, is it? But they are swooping up now, so all of you, well, not Ascarai, but Steo and Aaron get their free attacks on them.
I like to say I did my riposte and I dealt
Oh, of
1
course, you have a
damage,
riposte.
which
Okay.
if you quarter it, I don't know if you're counting that as 1 or 0.
No, it's rounding up. Oh no, he's rounding down. No, it's always 1. I think it's unfair to say it's 0 damage. Yeah.
Fair enough.
If you've hit and caused damage, you should cause damage, I think. So that's a no from Steo. I mean, you're rattled, right? So that's not entirely surprising. There we go. And the other swarm is going to swoop down on. Sorry,
My free attack
oh yes, yeah.
was 8 damage.
8 damage. Okay. Yeah. Well, Aaron Dar, you are just jabbing. You feel that you've fallen into a bit of a rhythm now. You are just jabbing them out of the air with sort of measured thrusts of your blade. Okay. The other 3 people who are going to get attacked are going to be definitely Alindra, I think, DeGesto, and I'm going to randomize one of the people who are hacking away on the wall. So whether it's Revelia or Antom or one of the Fortune Hunters, and it's going to be one of the Fortune Hunters. But I would say not the same one. So, okay, give me a. Alindra, you get an attack first, right?
Yeah, so let's do that. Any modifiers?
No.
Cool. Yeah, that's a hit.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, completely. -5.
-5. That's still a hit.
That's quite a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's minus modifier between friends? Okay, so damage. That's the D12 and the D4 at +1, so 8. So that's going to round down to 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you slice your blade through the air and definitely manage to kind of bisect an Ettermite that gives an oddly disturbing little shriek as it cascades to the ground. Okay, time to roll defenses then. So if you can roll me a defense at -3, that would be great.
That's a fail from me. So,
okay.
Armor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rolled a 6 on the armor roll.
Okay, well that is enough then. And basically an Ettermite kind of latches on with its like long, slightly curved, sharp claws. Like its forelegs are more like just hooked claws essentially, and it kind of latches on to your to the edge of your gauntlets and feverishly tries to find a way through the metal and leather that you have there, but doesn't manage to do so, and you sort of like angle your fuck off to get it off you. Yeah.
Fair.
So you're fine. Okay, and I would. So that's those 2 swarms. Also, the Ettercop that has not yet released a swarm, one erupts from it with a rattling and buzzing noise to kind of occupy the air over your heads.
It genuinely hadn't occurred to me that there might be a 3rd swarm. Does the second swarm like retreat again? Do we get? Or are they just kind of
yeah they move? Oh, did I? Yeah, I didn't. You didn't get your hit as they move away, right? So go for that. It's a -5.
-5. That's a fail to hit for Alindra.
Sure.
Oh, hang on. So if she but if she fails, she gets to go again because the 2-handed
the
force.
backhand. Yeah.
New attack roll, which steals but less damage if it hits, which it does not. So she just flails about a bit, I guess.
Absolutely. And now it's your turn, but I don't know what there is for you to actively do. Are you doing anything?
Oh, sorry, my turn.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's nothing in range, is there?
Nope.
So we're entirely reactive here. Like the main thing is just I want to position myself to be one of the people that the swarm goes for rather than the people that are doing the digging. So
I think you are definitely successfully doing that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Then
right now, there's definitely the position that effectively the swarms. I mean, now there's a third one. It's kind of a moot point, I guess. But with the 2 swarms, there was basically defense from 5 people, which meant that there was always going to be like one person hacking who got. But
to what extent do the first 2 swarms, seem to have thinned down? Out of interest.
You would say that one swarm, the one that hasn't attacked you yet, is less than half the size of what it was. The other one is the one that attacked you is definitely smaller, but still
going strong. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Revelia, do you want to make a cunning roll for Revelia's Ettercop hacking?
Yeah, let's see that. She shouldn't be hacking, really. She's not cunning, but she got a 1. Okay.
There we go. You know what? For ones, I'll give 2 pieces.
Ooh.
How about that?
2 of the good pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Farron is probably doing quite a bit of hissing and snarling and like leaping up, but not really achieving anything, I'd imagine.
There's that very, very angry, frustrated cat noises.
Yes.
But other than that, not much.
Not much else. And how about you, Arendar?
I'm not making angry, frustrated cat noises.
Would be weird.
It would. I'm still preparing for defense. Okay.
And then everyone who's not Stephen, if you could make a Fortune Hunter cunning roll, please, and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on the results. It's a 10 is your target. Thumb down, thumb down, thumb down. Oh, that's a bad miss. So that's 4 thumbs down. That still gets bits, but not fancy bits. Also, another one of the Fortune Hunters is now starting to kind of hack and cough a bit. And the one who was bitten before is visibly like wobbling slightly as she kind of hacks away at the wall with a knife. So the poison is definitely getting to them a bit. Steo, take 3 damage from the poison, please.
I was on mute. What I said was, ow!
I picked that up through the subtle art of lip reading. So you can feel that kind of like burning, tingling sensation kind of moving through your chest, and you yourself are kind of like your chest doesn't seem to be moving quite as much as it should. You don't feel like you're about to keel over, but it's certainly unpleasant. Okay, Father Anton, give me that cunning roll, you jewel miner, you.
I make it. Roll a 6.
Lovely. That's another tick on that thing. And I've sent my pen top spiraling across the room. De Gesto, for his part, he definitely thinks, especially with the emergence of the third swarm, he isn't going to start hacking away. He needs to help, like, try and drive this swarm off. So, yeah. Background to the beginning then. Askarai, you have 3 swarms above you now. Are you going for the most damaged one? The one you've been shooting at this whole time?
Yeah, I think Askarai is encouraged by the fact that it looks like it's thinning out a bit and is going to keep shooting at it and hope it'll give up and fly away somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the first one doesn't make it, but I get 2 tries. The second try does make it on a 2. And the damage is 4. Bad.
Okay. And the second shot?
The second shot hits, and the damage is better, 13.
Okay, so that's 3, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Again, you managed to kind of impale a good couple of Ettermites on the end of your arrows. That swarm is really starting to thin out now. Like you think if you stop for a moment, you could count the number of Ettermites in it. So it's definitely being considerably damaged. Just as well, because now they get to fly down. and attack multiple people. So this one, I think it's going to do the same as it did last round. It's going to attack the 3 people we've got here on the left. So first thing to happen is that Steo gets his long stab. So that at a -5, please.
Stabbing Longley. 5. That's finally a success on a hit.
Damage.
And damage is 9.
Okay, so that's a 2. Yeah, there are. You would say that. You know what? You don't even have to pause. You can. There are now you think about 6 Ettermites left in this swarm. I mean, they are like a foot long. You know, it's not like a little cloud of gnats or anything. But they're countable. They don't seem to be put off though. They are still kind of like buzzing around and seemingly uninterested in kind of fleeing this. But now they all get a chance to attack. So can the 3 of you roll your defense at a -3, please? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, which means that Arendar gets a riposte
of 10 damage, so 2.
Okay, you're very good at hitting these. Okay, there are now literally, again, you found your rhythm, you've got your eye in. A few more Ettermites kind of fall to your thrusts. There's probably just a couple of them basically buzzing around between you all now. And I would say that, yeah, well, they're going to try and disengage again now, and all 3 of you get attacks. So, well, Askarai doesn't. Yay! And that damage roll, please, Steo.
That's a 6 for me.
Okay. So basically, the couple of Ettermites remaining sort of start to spiral off into the sky. Steo, you use the focus of like that tightness in your chest and the really unpleasant sensation of having one thrash around next to your neck to take very good aim, thrust up. You pierce one of them, and the other one just kind of like essentially looks like the insect version of just having had enough. Like the Ettermite just kind of like drifts off into the sky, off into the distance, essentially. So that's one of the swarms done. The other one is going to attack its previous targets. So that will be Degesto, a Fortune Hunter, and Elindra. So the first thing that happens is Elindra gets her long attack. So that's an attack at -5.
That's a success. So the damage is 11, which I guess is kind of come down to 2.
Come down to 2, yep. So a couple more Ettermites fall to a mighty swing of your blade. How much does Revenant Strike do? Is it D4?
D4. That's me rolling a D12 plus D4 plus 1. But getting quite mediocre dice rolls.
Yeah. So bite time. Yeah, if you give me a defense roll at -3, please.
Sure.
Actually, I rolled for people against the Ettercop who would get attacked as a third person. I didn't do that this time. I will do it. Okay, that's actually Revelia is going to get attacked. So if you could roll the defense for her as well, please.
Yeah, she doesn't get her free attack because she's not holding the spear, right? But she presumably still gets to defend. Okay.
Yeah. She'll get a defense.
She fails. So do you want armor rolls for the 2 of us?
Please.
Elindra gets a 3. Revelia gets a 7.
Okay. So Revelia, for her part, kind of the swarm washes over her, and she just kind of like as she's hacking away, she still has like her shield braced against her forearm, and she just kind of holds it off and like batters the one again, them away with thumps as she thrusts it in the air. You, however, you feel briefly one of them kind of flitter across the back of your head, and you just feel like a sharp pain at the back of your scalp, as if you'd like bumped your head, or like a spot or a pimple has gone or something like that. And then you feel that kind of like tingling sensation wash out over the back of your skull. So take 1 toughness.
I don't like it.
We'll deal with your poison when we get to your turn. Yeah. And Degesto is fine. So we now have the third swarm. So what I'm going to do to pick their targets.
Do we get attacks as the second swarm disengages, or is it staying around?
You do. Sorry, there's so much to do with these. I keep getting confused. You absolutely do. So make an attack for yourself and Revelia, please.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, needn't have bothered. Lindry rolled a 19 and Revelia rolled a 20.
Never mind then. Degesto, for his part, knocks a couple of them out of the air. So there we go. Okay, the third swarm now. I'm going to randomize their targets, and then I might adjust it if it doesn't feel like it makes coherent sense with the space we've sort of paced out, right? So let's go with it's going to be one of the targets is Revelia. The other targets are Stio and Arindar. I think that's fine. In my head, I don't think we need to think too much about the geography of it. So, Stio, first off, let's have your long attack. -5.
And it's a fail.
Okay. Next, can I have defense rolls from the three of you at a -3, please? That's Revelia as well.
Ooh, yeah. Finding numbers.
Stio makes it. Revelia makes it. Arindar makes it. So again, you hear those those very notable thumps as Revelia kind of shield bashes the Ettermites away, which seems so far to be quite a good tactic. Arindar, get your riposte in, please, at a -5.
I rolled for 3 damage, so that's 1.
Okay. Maybe this new swarm flies a bit different to the old one, and your eye isn't as in anymore. And then all three of you get your disengagement attacks.
It's a fail.
Success from Stio. Give me a damage roll, please.
I've lost
That's
my
a
damage
10
dice
from
back a
me.
moment.
Okay. It's a
So
10.
I
did
rolled
you
a
say?
10, but you have to quarter that or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
'cause I
2.
can't do
It's
that
2.
kind of math.
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, you jab a couple of those Ettermites out of the air. So that's all good. Okay, that's their turn. Now we're on to Elindra. I'll ask... sorry, John.
I rolled a 5 on the damage.
Okay, so that's a 1.
Yes. Sorry, I dropped my damage dice on the floor and I couldn't find it.
It's okay. So Elindra, I don't know what you're doing, but what you are doing is taking 3 toughness as the unpleasant sensation kind of travels around your body, down your neck, and into your chest.
Okay. I think she's probably just going to take a moment, isn't she?
Yeah, probably. Can you do steadfast as a combat action?
I don't know what that is.
Not steadfast, sorry, recovery.
Oh, recovery. Yeah, I can. And we've been traveling for a couple of days, right? So I won't have used it today. Let's do that.
Yeah. Sure.
So it's a resolute roll.
Just me, just great GM, or just always thinking of what my players could do with,
That's because the players don't. Yeah, so I passed that, so I'm going to get D4 damage back. That's 2. So yes, taking a surprisingly effective breather.
So maybe a bit of calm breathing might slow your heart rate and therefore slow the passage of the poison around your body. That's Science. Yeah. That's how it works. If you get poisoned out in the wild, folks, do that.
Use your mystical superpower to slow your heart if you're stunned by a foot-long hornet.
Tell the medics that Matt told you. Matt told you to do that.
But also don't sue us if that gets you killed.
It's the one trick that the goblin didn't know.
Exactly. Revelia. Can we have a cunning roll for Revelia's Ettercopping, please?
That's a pass.
Awesome.
She's good at this.
And then Arindar, are we doing anything? Or just bracing?
Still bracing, I think. I might actually shout to the fortune hunter that's looking much the worse for wear and tell them to break for cover.
Okay, absolutely. And we now go to the fortune hunter's turn. And you know what? I'm going to need 3 rolls. So let's have a roll from... Well, John gets to roll for NPCs more than everyone else. So Mike, Sam, and Chris, if you can all make rolls against 10 for Fortune Hunter carving off of Etterkoppel, that's 2 thumbs up and a thumbs down. So basically, the Fortune Hunter, you get the sense she was going to do this anyway. She shouts out kind of something to DeGesto, who's quite nearby her, and sort of like is staggering off, kind of like racked, almost bent in half, kind of coughing on kind of onto the floor and kind of staggering away with the scraps that she's managed to get kind of tucked against her side. The swarms don't currently seem to be kind of going after her, but she's getting distance from the whole thing. Like she's about 20 feet away now, like just stumbling and hacking and coughing away. And I guess you just have to hope that the poison stops at some point on her. So that was that. Steo, I don't know what action you're taking, but 3 toughness, please.
Ouch.
As your chest tightens up further and you feel like an unpleasant like tingling running through your esophagus and down as you can when you can literally feel your lungs sort of like... I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't describe this kind of horrible stuff given the events of the last few years, but like they are struggling a bit. You don't feel like you're about to die or anything, but it's not pleasant.
I actually do feel quite a lot like I'm about to die, and I'm going to use my movement action to disengage.
Okay. You're not engaged, so it's fine, but you want to move away in the same way the fortune.
Yeah, I'm also breaking for cover because I am not well.
Okay. How much toughness have you got left out of curiosity?
Got 5 hit points left.
Ooh, okay. I always forget you are nowhere near as just toughness tanky as Alindra is. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Anton, are you going to make a cunning roll?
I don't think I am. Having seen Steo and the other fortune hunter running away and not looking very good, I may run after them.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to use both movement actions to sort of get away, so you can't apply Medicus or anything this round, but you can certainly do that, yeah. Okay, yeah, absolutely. DeGesto sees the 3 of you moving away, and kind of like he kind of looks around a bit and sees like the fairly kind of little hefty collection of stuff that people have, and shouts as a kind of question to everyone, and you can feel free to reply out of your round. He shouts, "Retreat!" It's a question, not an order. But he clearly seems, he's seen 3 people disengage and start to back away.
Yeah, we're done here.
Okay. I am perfectly happy. I think if you run away, the Ettermites will kind of stay. I'm happy for you to basically disengage without the Ettermites getting to you anymore. As you do disengage, Steo, you take another 3 toughness before you feel your lungs start to like swell up again, and sort of regain and kind of, your heart moves to more of a normal rate and you start to breathe more steadily. So 3 toughness for 3 rounds is no joke. So there we go. You all kind of like
2 toughness there for those keeping track at home.
Is that
there we go.
Just Steo, or is that everyone?
No, there are 2 fortune. Yes, it's everyone who got poisoned. So you should take 9 in total.
Okay,
so you should take another 6, right?
Another 6 now. Yeah.
Everyone has retreated. Kind of the fortune hunter. And probably Steo like ended up almost at the foot of the ridge away before she like not collapsed over, but also not a controlled sit down. And she's sort of like kneeling on her knees there, sort of like coughing, and like she's definitely breathing more steadily now. But she doesn't look great, and neither does the other fortune hunter who got poisoned and then ran off. DeGesto's sort of checking in on them, and one of their other fortune hunters is sort of like trying to like as much as you can herbal cure this kind of thing is kind of like, well, maybe he's got a kind of like eucalyptus or something, right? And he's kind of like dabbing it on their chest, making them breathe more easily. I'm assuming, given that Anton ran off to do Medicus stuff, that Anton is going to do some Medicus, perhaps on Steo, I'd guess.
Yes, and with a herbal cure, I think, as well.
Okay.
And I make the Medicus roll, so that's a good start. Herbal cure 6.
Okay, there we go. And yeah, I'd say you've got like among the herbal cures, you pick out like a eucalyptus type thing, and almost as soon as it like as you take it in, Steve, you feel your lungs kind of balloon up, and you can breathe a lot more easily, and the kind of warmth sort of rushes back to your shoulder and your neck. So that's good.
God, I hope that was worth it. Thank you, Anton.
Worth also taking a look at Elindra, perhaps. You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry. Does Elindra look quite as beaten up as Steo by all?
Elindra looks about as rough as she does after most fights.
I'll try and use a herbal cure. Actually, I don't make the Medicus roll.
Never mind then.
Yeah.
So
okay then.
Thanks for trying.
Okay. DeGesto sort of has like taken all the Etterkoppel off everyone and has put it all in like that goblin satchel and kind of brings it over to the middle of the group and just kind of like places it down and puts his hands on his hips. Says, "Not a bad little haul. And none dead. I'm assuming we're splitting this even."
Seems fair to me. How much do you think is there?
Well, that's a good question. Do we want to calculate what we think it's worth now, or do we want to wait until? Shall we do it between sessions? It's up to you. It will just involve quite a bit of die rolling, but we could all get it done together if we wanted.
I don't mind. Maybe between sessions. Not sure.
Yeah, sure. I will
tune in
calculate
next week
and
for
let you know.
the reveal of the haul.
For the exciting haul. Yeah, absolutely. Okay then. DeGesto suggests perhaps taking an hour or so as the buzzing and vibration from the Etterkops behind you so slowly starts to die down. DeGesto suggests taking an hour or so before you setting off again, maybe having something to eat.
Once Steo's kind of more with it, I'm going to take a look at Elindra as well from a Medicus perspective, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Cunning. So 10s are better. 19 could be worse.
But only just.
That is not 19 points of health back, just for your information.
That's 19 points of no health back.
Yeah. Are either of you going to attend to the Fortune Hunters at all, or are you sort of happy with the ministration from DeGesto and the other Fortune Hunters, which does not look expert, it has to be said?
I'm going to, I'll go and I'll give
because you can roll without a herbal cure, right? And
we'll take one each, I suppose. That's fair, isn't it?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
17.
Success.
Okay, can you roll whatever the roll is, please?
Well, mine's a D6 because I am a good Medicus, and that's a 6.
Lovely. Yeah, you know what? And it's the woman who actually staggered off at the end who seemed the most worse for wear, and you managed to kind of, again, with some sort of more kind of mentholish, eucalyptus-ish herbs, managed to get her breathing a lot more easily to a state where you're pretty comfortable with her, standing up and marching through the forest in an hour or so. The other guy, it has to be said, is a little worse for wear, but he insists he can carry on. I mean, he's got no choice, right? What just set off back to Ambria on his own. So that isn't happening. So yeah. Okay. So that's basically your second day of travel. As you carry on up north after your rest of an hour or so, is there any, again, as I always ask, is there any kind of like conversation or particular actions you want to take as you're kind of moving a bit slowly, perhaps recuperating from your fight against the Ettermites?
I think Askrai will mark trees just in case if we're in a good way on the way back and we want to try again, he's going to mark the trees just so we can get back.
Sure. There definitely was like plenty more on those Ettercops. So yeah, absolutely. And you know what? While you're doing that, Askarai, why don't you give me, as the day sort of comes to an end, and the evening sun is lasting more and more every day, obviously, as you move into the first part of spring. But can you give me a vigilant roll, please, as the sun starts to dip?
Okay. Yeah, I rolled a 3.
Okay. As you're walking over like a kind of gentle rise on the forest floor, and you see like a slightly steeper descent ahead of you, and as the tree line kind of like drops down with the descent, you actually manage to catch a glimpse over the canopy, out over the kind of darkening skies over Davakar, and ahead of you you see a rather large sodden swamp, stretching out for most of what you can see, but it certainly looks kind of circumnavigable. You can see the edges to it where you just have to like curve around. And very notably, on the far side of it is a low, wide, hulking ruin, clearly made of stone and heavily overgrown. But yeah, you know, it's that you're almost certain will be Faramaroon. It is very large, but not tall. It looks like there's only like the bottom, if there ever was more of it, you don't know, going upwards, but it looks like one floor, at least on the surface, and it's very big.
Let's probably give a sigh of relief that we found it, but also sort of anxious that at the sight of it, and wait for the rest of the party to catch up. Kind of nod to it across the swamp. Looks like we're here, or we're getting there at the very least.
That's a whole bloody city.
That's definitely more than we anticipated.
Could be all manner of things in there.
As you start to have this conversation, perhaps the last of the winter's snow starts to gently drift down above from the darkening sky, just in case you wanted to make your circumstances any more slightly awkward.
Are we setting up camp before we go down to the swamp?
You're just about to hit dusk, so it's you probably can't. You probably should do.
Is there any indication from where we are of, because we were told like go around the swamp? I don't recall us being told whether we were going east or west around the swamp.
No, he did not say.
Cool. And is there anything that looks more like a track than?
Oh God, no! There's nothing that looks like tracks out here.
Fantastic.
Let's pull back down behind the hill so we can light a fire and not get spotted by whatever's lurking in that stone sarcophagus.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You do that, and you set up camp. You set your watches and the like. I'm assuming all of you are going to have watch duty at some point during the night. Of course, I would roll that. Okay. Father Anton, during the night, as you're standing up for your watch, and let's say that, we could say that you're standing watch with another.
We've probably doubled up on watches was going to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There'll be someone with
who
him.
was going to be. Yeah. Well, let's say it is Steo. You and Father Anton are standing watch together. I don't know where you're sharing a kind of whispered conversation or just standing and walking around in silence. Well, let's say, which will it be? It's quite cold, I will say that, because the snow is settling.
I think I'm probably still a bit bruised and sore from the earlier work, so I'll probably be quite quiet and contemplative.
Okay. That's fair enough. Can you
I think
both give me a
Anton-
vigilant... No, go on.
I was going to say, if Steo's like, not wanting to be on his feet, then maybe Anton would be to make the watch more effective. So
Sure. Can you both give me a vigilant roll, please?
Christ. No.
Okay. In that case, it takes a few... Well, you know what? Let's roll this. So what would that be? Oh god, I don't have the initiative anymore. I don't need it. It's fine. I'm just trying to 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that precisely doesn't work. Okay, that works. So the next people on watch, one of them is DeGesto, and you kind of both notice he's been kind of tossing and turning, clearly kind of woken up near his watch time and desperately trying to get some rest, but not succeeding. And he has a kind of like bedroll that he lays out every night, maybe somewhat optimistically out here. It's slowly starting to slightly rot away at the sides. And he sort of sits up, kind of hunched up in his kind of baggy, long tunic / robe. Sort of looks up in the sky as the snow is drifting down against the kind of illuminated by a stark white moon, which you can actually see because of where you are, just near the crest of a rise, and says, "What's that noise?"
Noise.
Somewhere out there to the north. You kind of go silent and kind of cock your ears maybe, or whatever you would do to try and listen harder. And as DeGesto sort of like raises his hand and then points a finger in the air, and then you hear it drifting gently over the cold night air from somewhere to the north of you, a droning, wailing voice lifted up in some kind of unholy song, echoing slowly through the swampy valley, drifting from somewhere to the north, but it has to be said, from the kind of pitch in the distance you can hear, it sounds like it might just be coming from Fria Ligan. And I think we will end there for the evening.
Love a bit of spooky.
Love a bit of spooky. If you've got any comments or questions, folks, please pop them in the chat and we will address them. In the meantime, let me get a bit of promo out of the way. There are links down below, links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You've watched this on one. Please check out the other. There's also links to our social media, our Patreon, and Discord if you're interested in those things. We currently run 2 weekly campaigns, Vason on Mondays and Symbaroum on Wednesdays. Feel free to join us for those. We also run one-shots of various systems once a month at least. The next one should be on April the 1st, where we're running Dungeon World. And then sometime after that, in April, there should actually be a second one-shot, because we're not going to have one through March. And at the moment, it's looking very likely that that's going to be me running Goblin Quest. Because we had a little bit of a poll backstage, and Goblin Quest is ahead by a considerable degree. And I think that that might actually end up being our most populated one-shot. I think I can get 6 players. And 6-player Goblin Quest sounds like all sorts of fucking chaos. So that should be good. We don't have a date for that yet, but yeah, you heard it here first. In fact, probably before the people who were playing it, for the most part. So there we go. John, do you want to pop up some comments and questions? Although before you actually do, thank you for the follows. I'm not sure which of these have been covered before. Some of them might have been, but I don't know what Johnny covered on Monday. But thank you for the follows to Campster993, MPK, Ambient Tempest, and Liramion. Liramion? John.
This next comment is going to completely ruin the cliffhanger.
Can we ban him?
I saw him tapping something on his phone with an incredibly smug fucking look on his face. Jesus Christ. I suppose I should read this out for those of you who listen and don't watch. Mike put in the chat, the song is by Maroon 5. Yeah. So we're all just going to have to sit in that for a couple of minutes, I guess. Next. John's having trouble. Steve, it's Telling Tales' commitment to atmosphere that sets us apart. Yeah. I've got commitment to atmosphere. Just because this fucker here doesn't, I can't be held responsible. I'm just glad we've got through an entire fucking session without a mention of Beremo.
I'm just real happy that... I'm real happy that Mike found like two separate dimensions in which he can ruin the game, like by ruling appallingly
mechanically
being
and narratively.
This next comment was not about Mike's pun, but it might as well be.
This is worse than the throwing spiders. Was that about the Ettermite tucked down the side of the neck?
Yeah, it was like when you were just like, I'm going to start describing stuff. And
oh no!
Yeah,
he's gonna describe things.
Should be banned from describing insect combat. It's not allowed.
Hey, yeah. Well, you got a nice story about me being disturbed as a child. That was fun, wasn't it?
I mean, I suppose if you were narrating it for the insects, it would have been even worse, right? Like,
hey, we don't know who watches. If there's any Ettermites or mantises out there watching.
Yeah, the Ettermites had a bad day.
Yeah.
Hang on. You need to do the engagement here. Stick a comment down below if you're an Ettermite watching this evening.
Yeah, it'd be good to know what. I don't think we get that on YouTube Analytics. But it'd be good to know what percentage of our audience are insects.
Yeah, if you're a foot-long chitinous hell beast.
Yeah. I mean,
drop
to be
us a
fair,
like and subscribe.
That might not just be an Ettermite. There's loads of different foot-long chitinous hell beasts.
Yeah, well, I'm being inclusive,
Yeah, it's true. Steve, is Ascarai going to start one-shotting other party members? I certainly hope so.
I do. On an armor-piercing shot,
already
it could
nearly
be
done,
bad.
Right?
I think I did down Steo once.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was in the basement of the what were they called? The Sons of something. They were the slightly
Black
cultish. Yeah, led by a black cloak, and the black cloak basically pulled Steo in front of the arrow, because he had master acrobatics, right? So yeah.
Which is the moment I decided I wanted it.
I didn't even have armor piercing back then. It's now going to be even worse.
Great. Can't wait. Honestly, cannot wait. 42. When Matt said he was going to do something he was thinking about for a while, I just thought he meant killing Ascarai. Yeah. Well, let's make it a rule. If he rolls 2 20s in a row, he accidentally shoots himself up through the chin. And right, yeah.
He lets go of the wrong hand.
Yeah.
Shooting forward, it just shoots back.
Yeah. The bow just kind of rotates 180 degrees and shoots. Yeah.
He ends up shooting directly 180 degrees up.
Look, I hate it when that happens. Yeah. Next. Steve, just smear Anton in honey and have him run off as a distraction. Hey, that doesn't just work against Ettermites.
It's a very different stream if we do that.
It is. But probably a more profitable one.
We could use that as our Fire Maroon strategy. Send us running through the temple.
Is there a Patreon tier for that? Or
for smearing Mike in honey.
In his short shorts.
I mean, and Tom. Yeah. Mike does have short shorts. I've seen the proof. Don't kick food. I too feel afflicted by elderly when I fail my first roll of the day. Brackets, stub my toe getting out of bed. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You see, for me, I feel afflicted by, like, when I fail my first roll of the day, I don't even know what it was. I will just wake up and either I feel like crap or I don't. And it's just like, toss a coin. There's no rationale.
Very realistic little attribute, isn't it?
It is. And I would say to everyone who sounds, oh, that sounds funny or silly. Yeah, you're obviously not, you haven't hit your 30s yet. Don't worry, it's coming. All right, next. What we got next? Oh god, John. Oh god, they're Hellboy pixies. Yeah, sure, a little bit. Well, Hellboy pixies were just pixies, right? We've had like a pixie attack, right?
Yeah,
they were pretty.
we did.
They were pretty gnarly.
They did corruption.
Well,
I think
not with John and Alindra in the party, but just between Copper Crown and Wrath of the Warden, we had some pixies, some nasty Davakar pixies attacking. Next, is that it? I want this one because I want to clarify something here. So this is from John, and this is talking about Goblin Quest. And for those of you who are familiar, might know where I'm going with this. 6 whole goblins? No. If there's 6 of you playing Goblin Quest, there's 30 whole goblins because you have 4 backup goblins because goblins are gonna die. The attrition in Goblin Quest is significant, harrowing, and hilarious. So you can look forward to that one.
Yeah, 30 goblins in Davakar would just be terrifying. Like,
yes,
30 goblins in Goblin Quest is going to be amazing.
Amazing. And in fact, like, we haven't fully confirmed it with dates yet, so I don't want to fully confirm people for it. But I believe two of our Symbaroum crew may well be in Goblin Quest. So keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, okay. I think that's it, folks. Take care and stay safe out there. And we will see you next week for more Symbaroum. Goodbye. Bye.